And first of all, I would like to thank, of course, the organizers for this really stimulating workshop. I would also like to express my gratitude for the kind welcome and of course as well for the invitation to present at least some of the results of the excavation in the ancient city of Doliche, conducted by the Asia Minor Research Center at the German University of Münster. Just a moment. Okay, so the cultural remains of ancient Doliche are today located close to the southeastern Turkish metropolis of Gaziantep, as you can see on this slide. Founded around 300 BC, the city became under Roman influence in the course of the second half of the 1st century BC and became part of the Roman Provincia Syria at the latest in Flavian times after the Bellum Commagenicum in 72 AD. You can see here Doliche and Dülük Tepesi in this red circle close to the metropolis of Gaziantep. The city Doliche is well known above all as the home of Jupiter Dolichenus, who was one of the most important Roman deities in imperial times and who made the name of his home city known throughout the Roman Empire. And you can see here the spread of the cult in the whole of the Mediterranean. Jupiter Dolichenus, one of the most important Roman deities in imperial times, as I've said, and it's therefore not surprising that this god on the bull with his attributes of a bundle of lightning and a double axe decorates the logo of the Doliche excavation project. Some examples for this you can see here. The starting point for now 25 years activity in Doliche was in 1997 and 1998 the discovery of 2 cult sites of the Roman mystery god Mithras at the foot of the Keban Tepe. You see here the western slope of the Keban Tepe, the ancient hill of the settlement, and the red arrow is marking the entrance to these caves. These mitrea are built in a quarry driven underground into the hillside, and each had a cult image carved out of the rock. You see one of these 2 rock reliefs here in the slide. The mitrea of Doliche are not only among the largest cult sites of this kind in the whole Mediterranean world, but also among the very few testimonies of the Roman cult of Mithras in Turkey. The relevance for the discussion about the origins of this mystery cult that has been going on for over 100 years is just as undisputed, as well for the competitive situation between followers of Mithras and early Christians. You can see here that the head of the god is destroyed and replaced by a Christian cross. The mitrea of Doliche are now well explored and the center of an archaeological park built in cooperation with the city of Gaziantep. This is the entrance situation in 1997 when we found the first mitreum, and this is the situation today, and it's a very comfortable access also for visiting the rock reliefs, as the slide is showing it very well. In 2001, work shifted to the summit of Dülük Tepesi, a 1,200-meter high mountain near the city of Doliche. You see here the top of the hill and the excavation area. After 15 years of archaeological research at this site, we can state that Dülük Tepesi was one of the most important and continuous cult sites in southeast Anatolia from the Iron Age to the High Middle Ages, and the different colors indicating in this slide the different excavated structures from different periods beginning in the Iron Age and going on to the Middle Ages. I would just like to remind you of the discovery of a fine complex unit in both quantity and quality of predominantly late Iron Age votive offerings presented in the sanctuary from the 8th to the 4th century BC. Here a small number of these finds with over 3,000 beads and amulets, as well as 666 predominantly late Iron Age stamp and scroll scenes. Here's a small selection, as I've mentioned, of stamp seals. This fine complex is one of the largest seal assemblages of this area ever recorded in a regular excavation. Such a practice of masses of seal dedications is not known from other contemporary sanctuaries. And the complexity and the wide-ranging geographical distribution of the imagery that appears here, another small selection, points to the supra-regional importance of the Doliche Baba Tapestry as a pilgrimage site and its integration into large-scale networks as early as the first millennium BC. Let me go into a little bit more detail at this point and illustrate the relevance of this site for the religious history of the Middle East. This stele, which was built into a late antique Byzantine wall in a secondary use as a supporting pillar, shows a very high quality depiction that had hardly been paralleled so far. A deity, as you can see, grows from a leaf cup whose long stem rises from a cone decorated with astral symbols, like a moon and stars. Details such as the design of the bird, of the posture of the arms, remind us of representations from the Iron Age, the first half of the first millennium BC. However, the design of the clothing and the overall composition show that this is work of the Roman period. The iconographic elements suggest that it is a fertility or vegetation god. The relevance of this unique relief seems evident. The deity is depicted in ancient Near Eastern tradition and impressively shows that the sanctuary on Doliche Baba Tapestry was obviously a place where early traditions were alive until Roman times. This applies in the same way to the discovery of the first representation of the gods of Doliche from their homeland itself. The imaged field of this basalt stele is divided, as you can see, into zones. In the lower zone, two men are standing around an altar. They are identified as Syrian brides by their costumes. In the upper main field, the god standing on the bowl wears a long pointed bird. His head is covered by a conical cap decorated with horns. In his bent left hand, the god holds a bundle of lightning bolts. Opposite to him, on a stack, stands his female companion. As in the case of her partner, the strong reference to ancient Near Eastern models is striking. The fact that it is a later product at all only becomes apparent in the details of the scene in the lower field of the picture, where Greco-Roman forms can be recognized. The stele was probably erected in the open within the sanctuary and set on the ground. Lack of an inscription identifying the benefactor may come as a surprise. This, however, would correspond to Greek-Roman custom. Most of the basalt stele in southeast Anatolia with representations of God do not mention the name of the dedicant. Thus, not only the style of the sculpture's work, but also the manner of the dedicant's self-representation reveals the stele as a local product. And this can only be understood as a reflection of a cult image created in the Iron Age, which was present in the sanctuary until the Roman imperial period. It thus emerges that at least parts of the local population worshipped their gods in the ancestral form for longer than was previously thought. A different picture is presented by this Roman period bronze applique used in cult activities with the representation of Jupiter Dolichenus, which belonged to the top of a standard and had the character of a mobile cult image that could be carried along in processions. The applique demonstrates the different facets of the cult, the integration of divergent religious systems in Roman times when contrasted with the basalt stele, which, as we have seen, also dating from Roman times, depicts the pair of gods in the ancient Oriental tradition. In contrast, this bronze, which follows the same image scheme, shows the god in Roman military dress as we know him from the majority of Western portraits. The bronze thus reflects the cult transformed by Western influences, which became an imperial religion. The transformed image of the god returned to his native sanctuary like a backflow and encounters there the forms of traditional worship. Basalt stele, left, and bronze applique, right, thus points to the variability within a cult at one place and its integration into different levels of worshipping. So what do these finds, which have received a great deal of attention in research, exactly mean? They provide more information about the form in which the god was worshipped in his homeland than any images that have survived from the West. Above all, the suggested connection between the local cult and the imperial cult is one of the most remarkable results, showing that after the spread of the cult in Roman times, the Dolichean sanctuary not only served the religious needs of the local population, but also represented a point of reference for followers of the god from other regions of the empire. The Doliche Baba tapestry thus proved to be an interface where the image and idea of a Near Eastern religious concept were preserved and finally globalized, if I may say it in this word, so successfully that they found their way far into the West. A recent review rightly noted that the Doliche Baba tapestry, begin of the quotation, offers a valuable reference for one of Commageni's major sites, which is able to speak to broader regional trends and to the interplay between global and local tradition and influence. End of the quotation. In order to be able to successfully continue the commitment of the Asia Minor Research Center in the Gaziantep region, important steps have been taken in recent years in that after many years of work on the Doliche Baba tapestry, I've just spoken about some of the results. According to our work at this place at Doliche Baba tapestry, the urban area of Doliche, that means the Keba Tepe, the hill of ancient settlement, the urban area of Doliche itself has now become the focus of interest for the first time within the framework of a new project sponsored by the German Research Foundation and called Doliche Urban Development and Cultural Milieu in ancient northern Syria. The construction of a new large excavation house at the foothills of the Keba Tepe in 2015 and 16, with spacious workrooms, restoration workshops, photo laboratory, and storage areas, provides the necessary infrastructure for this new urban excavation project. And as Birgül has mentioned, it will be a pleasure for us to host at least some of you during the next days in our excavation house after the workshop, and then starting with practical exercises in and outside our excavation house. Why Doliche? What makes the city so important to start with a new excavation project, a city excavation project? Urban centers of the Hellenistic Roman period in ancient Syria have been insufficiently researched so far. The most important sites that could be considered for such research are heavily built over, like Antakya, for example, or Antiochia, ancient Antiochia, or they are no longer accessible for the foreseeable future due to the Syrian civil war, or unfortunately, in the meantime, they are completely lost. In order to paradigmatically investigate the cultural milieu of a Hellenistic Roman city in ancient northern Syria, the city of Doliche, which you can see here on the map, which was abandoned in the 12th century and not resettled afterwards, and this is important, which is now located in Turkey, approximately 40 kilometers north of the Turkish-Syrian border. You can see here the new red line, offers, of course, together with Zygma, a unique opportunity. The excavations so far point indeed to the great potential and far-reaching perspectives of future context-oriented investigations of urbanization and urbanity in Doliche from the Hellenistic to the early Islamic period. Let me indicate this in the required brevity. On an extensive plateau of the eastern end of Kebatepe, which represents the largest flat area within the urban territory, this is this area here, the results of geophysical prospections had indicated a dense development oriented along an orthogonal grid. Their dimensions suggested that the public center of the city was located here. The public character of this area is also indicated by many roof tiles with a stamp Demosia, two examples on the left side. And this is matched by the discovery of an honorary inscription. On the right side, you can see the inscription for a citizen of the town which bears witness to urban institutions in Doliche, for the first time mentioning, as you can see here in line 3, Boule and Demos. The city archive was evidently also located nearby. You can see it here on the map. And until now, we discovered around 4,250 seal impressions made of clay. A small selection here on the right side. And among the administrative or official seals of the city are many. One example here that depicts the god of Doliche on the right side here in the picture, together with the emperor here on the left side, demonstrating in this way the close connection of the city cult of Jupiter Dolichenus with the Roman Empire. And I show you another small selection to give you an impression about this unique group of artifacts, and the future examination of these artifacts and their broad iconographic repertoire will allow, I'm sure, deep insights into the religious and cultural life of the people of a city in ancient northern Syria, and can decisively contribute to answering numerous questions regarding the cultural, religious, economic, and administrative history of the Middle East in the Hellenistic and Roman period. The public character of this building of the archive of the city is confirmed by the nearby existence of a large building complex in the west of the area, which is identified as a bath complex from the Roman imperial period. At around 2,000 square meters, this is of considerable size. It features the sequence of cold, warm, and hot bathing rooms typical to a the Roman period. A room of about 150 square meters here on the left side with a swimming pool, which belongs to the cold bathing rooms, were partially uncovered, as were parts of the heating system under the floor of the hot rooms in the south of the complex. You can see on the right side. With its symmetrical structure, the complex was strongly oriented towards Western models and thus documents the strong Roman influence on city life in ancient northern Syria. Many architectural fragments were discovered in the backfilling of the basins, suggesting a dating of the construction to the 2nd century AD. Particularly noteworthy is the discovery of two pillar blocks, one of them you can see on the right side, that stood at water spouts at the edge of the basin and guaranteed the water inflow. The bath, equipped with valuable mosaics, one example here, was thus built at a time when there were only very few public baths in ancient Syria, unlike in the Latin West, and it was obviously no longer in operation in the 4th century AD. By this time, in the 4th century AD, the inhabitants had abandoned this part of the city, probably due to wars and economic crises that had led to the decline of lots of cities of northern Syria since the middle of the 3rd century AD. The onset of Christianization, we know that Doliche became a bishop's see in the 4th century, changed the topographical structure of the town. A new Christian identity of the townspeople of Doliche can now be seen in the shifting of the areas of use within the urban topography, and we will now have a short view to this late antique basilica complex here. During the last years, we were able to excavate a Roman building complex on the southern slope of the ancient settlement hill, a large Christian church consisting of a large central nave and 2 side naves separated from each other by pillars. Especially in the northern part of the central nave, well-preserved parts of the once splendid mosaic floor dating to around 400 AD have been uncovered beneath thick layers of rubble. The decorative scheme of square fields showing alternating geometric motifs framed by a band of alternating round and rectangular ornaments continued at first, but ends, you can see it here or here in the picture, ends at a rectangular border of reused limestone blocks of different formats, which lies centrally in the nave. This structure is to be interpreted as a bema and is thus an important indication for the interpretation of the building as a church. Bemata of this kind, podiums for the clergy, have so far been known mainly from the many churches in the North Syrian limestone massif. The end of the central nave, you can see here again this structure which we called bema. The eastern end of the central nave is formed by a well-preserved apse, you can see here, which in its last phase of use in the 5th and 6th centuries was decorated with a floor mosaic of remarkable quality. It shows us, here a more detailed picture, a Nilotic theme with richly detailed fish, birds and plants framed by beautiful ornamental bands. In addition to birds, we can recognize above all fishes, but also you can see on the left side here, but also a shrimp. The walls of the church were decorated with marble slabs. Hundreds of fragments were recovered, some of them large format marble slabs that had apparently fallen from the walls. Some residues of painting have also been preserved. These and other finds provide fascinating and new insights into the decorative furnishings of the church, as well as this really wonderful fragment of a marble table, probably belonging to an altar. Although there are still many questions in detail, the Basilica of Doliche is one of the largest and one of the earliest inner city churches in the entire region, built in the last quarter of the 4th century AD. Further research, which we will do at the cooperation project with the newly established UNESCO Chair for Cultural Heritage and Digital Memory at Ankara, will undoubtedly shed new light on the development of church construction in the late Antique Orient. Finally, I would like to pay your attention to another exciting finding of the last summer. As it became possible to start excavating on this field, a newly expropriated field also belonging to the public space of the city. This is a field, what I mean about the other two fields I have just spoken. For us, it was a big surprise to uncover parts of a large Roman temple, which is notable not only for its size, but also for its unusual form. As can be ascertained so far, in the center of the field, it is an east-west oriented temple with a width of about 35 meters. On the west side, its interior concludes with an apse, as is clearly seen here in the pictures, a semicircular space which is about 12 meters wide. The laterally adjoining areas have not yet been fully examined, but it can be assumed that small side rooms are attached to them, which would have been accessed from the apse. Despite the high level of destruction, the uncovered remains give a good impression of its monumentality. We have numerous architectural fragments of substantial size. One example you can see here, fragment which already allow to reconstruct very precisely the building structure. Another example I can show you here. Although we do not yet know who was worshipped in this newly discovered temple, however, it seems to be possible that it could be a site of a Roman emperor cult. All in all, the building promises to deliver new information about the development of temple architecture in ancient North Syria. For that, further excavations will be required in the coming years, and we are really looking forward starting with the new field work in a few months. And I would like to end with the last reference to this shortly appearing book, Exploring Urbanism in Ancient North Syria, Fieldwork in Doliche between 2015 and 2020, the first volume of a newly founded series called Doliche Urban Excavations, which will allow, if you are interested, to deal more intensively with the results of the excavations carried out so far on Kebatepe than it was possible for me today in around 25 minutes. Thank you very much for your attention.